Hey guys, welcome to the second installment of my guitar and bass recording journey for the new album with my band, The Elite. Just kidding, I'm not reading anything. But this is the second installment of my guitar recording journey for the new album with my band, The Elite. And in the first episode, I mainly went over just kind of like some of the gear stuff, what cabs I was thinking about using, and the microphones I was thinking about using. And in this one, I'm gonna go over my guitars of choice, my amp, all the routing that I've got going on for that, ultimately what cabs I decided to use and how I've got those mic'd up, and just everything for the recording thus far. And if you're someone who's not really into the technical stuff, because there's going to be a lot of technical talk in this one, but if you're not really into the audio production side of things, I hope you stick around, because just to see some cool gear and just hear how this stuff works behind the scenes. All right, so main tracking guitar, my trusty ESP RA3 here. This guitar has been my main tracking guitar on every recording I've been a part of since 2006-ish. Chimera's Resurrection, and then our Infection album, and then The Age of Hell, The Elite's 2018 Total Destruction, my Disaster album, my solo records. 6 Feet Under is the only one that I didn't do that one on, 2011. So I think that covers it all. But basically, this has been my main tracking guitar for everything. This is also the guitar. I made a video about it. If you want to check it out, I'll link it somewhere. But this guitar is going in my coffin with me, and I talk about everything about it in that video. But it's just fantastic in every way. The feel, the sound, all that kind of stuff. So this is gonna be my main tracking guitar. I'm gonna use the Jackson SL2 MG. At least it's my plan right now. For overdub, stuff like that, just to differentiate the tone a little bit. Maybe solos, we'll see. Just gonna play solos on both of them, see what feels better. And then can you see this in here? This is the LTD B204 bass. And again, that's another one that I've just been using for many years. I think I got this one maybe around 2014, 15, and I've been using it for all my production since. Every YouTube video that I've used real bass in, the albums that I've made since then. It's just been a killer workhorse. It just plays and sounds fantastic. And I've got, a handful or more of great ESP basses, a lot of them much higher end than this, but sometimes you just find one that's awesome, that's just fits you just right. And this has been the one, love it. So that's what we're gonna start with. And the first step is to get them all set up, restrung, and ready for the sessions. So let's do that right now. Next is the amp, and we got the trusty PV6505. I just went with my typical live settings and made a couple small adjustments as I started getting things dialed in, but I really just started with my live settings and went from there, and they sounded great, you know, through the microphones and all that. We'll get to that, but made very little adjustments. And here you can see that there. And the differences, we're also using the Alesis MEQ230, which is a kind of secret weapon of Cleveland Spider Studio back in the day when Chimera first started recording. Even before that, Mark Hunter had one of these at my very first Chimera jam. Like when I was asked to join the band and I came down and jammed with the guys, he had one of these through a 5150 and maybe a Marshall cab. I think it was a Marshall cab. I don't think it was a Mesa at that point, but anyways, he said that was the tone. And so I ended up picking one up, and it just brings like a sweet like life and color, something about it. You know, it doesn't really change the tonal characteristic of the head any bit. It just enhances it in this awesome way, which is killer. So I run that in my loop, and the routing goes like this. Guitar into this is my rack here. Things look like a mess right now because they are, because I got tons going on. But this is my rack right here. So my routing goes into this Countryman DI. And you don't necessarily need one of these. I picked it up because I heard Joey Sturgis one day say, he's an awesome producer, done tons of records that many of you guys love. But he recommended this DI. I got this back probably 2011, 2012. And he says it isn't going to turn bad tracks into awesome tracks, but it'll turn good tracks into great tracks. And I said, okay. So I went with it. But the nice thing is this is my input right here. So from my guitar, I go into the input. Then there's a through that comes out. We'll talk about that in a sec. But the input then goes into my Apollo Quad. All my preamps are my Apollo Quad and this Audient ASP 880. So it's got 16 channels here. So this runs into my Apollo, and that's my DI signal that runs in to Pro Tools. And a DI signal, for those that don't know, is just this. If you strummed a guitar without hearing an amp, that's the DI signal. And once it goes through this stuff, it's amplified, but not amplified like how you'd think, like through like a big stack with distortion and stuff, just amplified in volume a little bit. But it's that clean signal that then you can do a lot of things with. If you wanted to reamp, which is then send that signal back through a guitar cabinet or any guitar cabinet or any combination, you can get any new sound you want. If mixing engineer gets all the tracks from a band to mix a record and he doesn't like the guitar sound, if they included a DI, he can reamp that if he wants to through his go-to setup and have guitar sound the way he wants, this particular head, this particular cab, whatever. But I don't have any plans for that. The other big benefit to recording a DI along with regular amps is that it just makes editing way easier. And I'll show off some of that in the next video. But just the transients you see, which is the visual representation of the audio being recorded, is more articulate and far easier to edit with the DIs rather than a distorted guitar sound that comes from the cabinets with microphones on them. We'll get into all that more later. But so I'm recording a DI simultaneously. Back to the Countryman. So this is another good thing about this unit. It allows me to do what I'm talking about right now. So my main signal comes in, then the output of that outputs to Pro Tools through the U8 Apollo Quad into Pro Tools there, and I'm tracking the DI. Then the through, which is kind of like a splitter, comes through there, right through here, to my tuner, always first in my chain. Next, I tried this Maxon, which is an OD, like an Ibanez tube screamer. And I've never been an OD guy. A lot of people think that, you have to have one in your chain. Well, there's no Chimera guitar recordings with any of them. So if you like Chimera's guitar tone on A Possibility of Reason, Self-Titled, Resurrection, whatever, there's none of these that I know of, at least not that I used during tracking. But I decided for this recording, let's go ahead and try one, see what happens. So I did put it in line, and I was happy with the results, actually. Like I felt like it did do something positive to my sound, but it introduced way too much noise. I like a clean signal, clean mutes, all that. It was just way too much distortion, and the juice wasn't worth the squeeze. Then from there, we go from the tuner to the ISP decimator, which is my holy grail of pedals. This is the noise reduction pedal. One knob, super easy. Keep it there around 11 o'clock. Always have, always will. And that cleans up a super high gain amplifier like the notoriously noisy PV6505. Again, the MEQ's running through the loop. That's the only thing in the loop there. And that's all I've got going on with that. And next we'll head over and check out the cabinets, but quickly, let's talk about the bass. With all this too, I'm trying to keep my normal YouTube, recording, making videos setup going on. So all the microphones and lighting and everything and routing that I use for that, I'm trying to work around it so I can still make videos, but have this recording setup going on the whole time, which is gonna take me at least a couple weeks or more because, gotta concentrate on everything, multitasking, so at any rate, fortunately I have plenty of channels. But with my bass setup here, I'm going into the Sans Amp Tech 21, which is a great just analog pre, and it's just a classic, awesome sounding amp for bass. I have an out coming to this tuner here, so I can tune from there for the bass, unaffected. And then I go into the Audient ASP. And I'm also experimenting with the DBX 168, which is just an analog compressor there, a really well-known one. And I've been experimenting with that. And in the box, I'm using the UAD distressor, just in the box through console, recording that signal. And I'm still deciding whether I want to go with a compressor in the box. I'm still going to check out some LA2As and 3As and things like that, and decide whether I like the sound better for the DBX 168. I haven't recorded bass tracks yet, but I'm prepared for it because I want to record guitars, then bass for every song while I'm still fresh at the song. So I'm fresh off recording guitars. I know all the riffs, everything like that. Now I got to pick up the bass and do it, rather than if I did all the guitars, songs 1 through 11, and then had to come back and I'd basically have to relearn all the songs, all the notes and everything for the bass, where if I'm fresh with one song, I'm just going to track bass right after that. I think that's going to be the best method. So I haven't done that exactly yet, so I'm not exactly sure. I haven't totally dialed in the tone. I want to hear it with the guitars. As the guitars are in there, what's best for the mix. So I'm going to decide on that. I think that's it for this guy. Let's move on. All right, moving on. A couple bad boys there. Okay, let me get this out of here. This is actually the Invective, which I thought I was going to use. We'll talk more about that in a sec. Here we go. All right. So here we've got this almighty cab and the Marshall 1960 BV. In the first episode, I talked about how I was going to be using a PB Invective 4x12 with the Marshall 1960 BV. But as I got things mic'd up and started doing tests, I realized that the Invective sounds great. Don't get me wrong. When you're playing just through a head and just jamming in front of it, it's incredible. But as I mic'd it up and was getting things going, it wasn't giving me exactly what I wanted. And so I thought, why don't I try my almighty cab, which has been fantastic for me forever, and see what happens. And man, it delivered. This cab, you can't get them. It's kind of like a one-off. I don't know how many were made, but just a handful of them. They were made by a company called, at the time, GuitarCable.com. Great company out of Chicago area. They do all Camira's cables. They've done them for our whole career. Fantastic people, fantastic product, great cables. I recommend that. They've rebranded to Besttronics, BEST-Tronics Manufacturing or Pro Audio, something like that. Killer guys. They're making killer fly rigs and pedal boards and amazing setups for people. But anyways, one day we were there at their headquarters back in the day, and they said, hey, we've got this cab for you. You want to check it out? And I said, sure. And I took it. It's got vintage 30s. The best thing is it's built into its own road case. Thin, lightweight. I mean, it's the perfect design. There's a cover that goes over this, over the front here. So love this cab. And it's always sounded great. I've used it live many times, and I decided to try it out. And man, well, first, let me talk about this. So first, I mic'd up the 1960 BV, which is what I used on the Elite Soul Destruction. Again, this doesn't have a grill cover because this cab is about to be retolexed. I got it set up for that, but I wanted to use it for this recording. I use it, did I say this before? I can't remember. I used it on the Elite Soul Destruction 2018. Love that tone. I wanted to try it again. It's just a great sounding cab. Full and rich, but darker, more rhythmic, not very bright. But anyway, so this is the first one I got mic'd up, and I went with the Royer 121 and a 57. They're spaced there exactly the same. I got just a bit, I know you can't see this, but just the 57 just a bit off the dust cap there. The Royer kind of encapsulating everything. I tried it turned around, which they said would be brighter, but I ended up going with the front. And I went through many, many iterations going back and forth between, so check this out. I know certain people out there will appreciate this because you've gone through it. I just set it up by sight at first. Got everything going here, got all the cables ran, all that. And I just kind of set it up at first, just by sight. And I record a couple tracks in there, hear what that sounds like. And I'm like, okay, I think I want to move the 57, you know, a little closer to the cap, get a little brighter. Maybe I'll move the Royer, you know, just down a little bit or something, just to see, you know. And I didn't like the results of their combination or just each mic individually. And I'm like, I want to go back to where I had it. I should have just left it how it was. How I set it up by sight. And it took me like a dozen different moves or more. And it's, you know, coming back here, moving it a 1/16 of an inch in one direction or another, you know, going back, recording tracks, listening, coming back, moving it, coming back, listening and everything. You know, I don't have one of those automatic systems, which would be awesome. I can't remember what those are called right now, but I want one of those where you can control it with an app and move the mic around, you know, to hear in the control room. Because if I come in here with headphones even and try to do this, it's so loud, you can't make great decisions. That's out of the question, at least for me with my setup. I tried that. I would love to be able to just put headphones on, send a reamp guitar tone through this thing, move the mic around, find the best position, that's it or whatever. But it's just so loud, you know, even though I have great headphones or whatever, they're not canceling enough or I need them just pressed against my head so much. It's just too loud. Even my amp's at like, you know, 1.5 out of 10 or 11 on a 6505, which is still super loud. So anyways, I had to just keep going back and forth with tests. And finally got it back to where I thought the original position was and what sounded the best, or maybe I found something better. I don't know, but ultimately ended up deciding that I didn't really like the sound. But I didn't want to move the mics. I didn't want to do anything like that because I thought, oh, maybe the Almighty would sound better with the Royer. I don't know, but I got the Royer, I got the Almighty set up then, brought that out in exchange for the Invective and did a setup with a 57 and an MD421. That's a Sennheiser there. And dude, it sounded killer right away. Just absolutely fantastic. What I was looking for, the bite, the just presence and brightness, fantastic, awesome. I plan on quad tracking, so I started thinking it's gonna be great to have a brighter, more aggressive sound with this cab and just a darker, leaner sound maybe a little more low end, I don't know, with the BV. Did the same things, moved the mics around a little bit, found the sweet spot. I'm not somebody that's gonna try to find the perfect speaker, because you just get into analysis paralysis, especially when you got two mics on a cab, you know? You could try to find it just with one mic, and that'd probably be the easiest thing, but I'm like, whatever, I'm just gonna pick a speaker and just go with it or whatever. I mean, you're splitting hairs, who cares? I want a great guitar sound. That's gonna come from your hands, heart, and mind. Everybody says the speaker is the most important thing. Well, not if what you're putting through the speaker ain't the best thing, right? Anyway, so I did the best I could with that. I finally got all these set up. I don't know if I said this before, but I had the Invective right here as a blockade so my kids don't come in here and wander in and get curious or whatever, because now that I've got this dialed in and set up, nothing can be moved. I've got 11 songs to record with it exactly like this. Nothing can move, because I'm telling you, even the slightest movement, we're talking a hair, changes the tone completely with any of these microphones in their position on the speakers. But I got them exactly where I want them. I'm feeling good about everything. I recorded quad tracks in a section of a song, EQ'd things in there, how they needed to be, and we're perfect and good to go. I'm very happy with the guitar sound that I got going on right now. It's perfect. I'll just go into this a little bit. The 57 on this Almighty was a ton of bite. Lots of high end and grit, was awesome. And surprisingly, the 421 was the same way. Usually the 421 is just a lot darker. You can even use it on like a kick drum or a bass cab. It's a very versatile mic, but it's just more low end oriented. But it sounded better than the 57 in terms of its bite and clarity in this particular configuration. I can't say why, but I'm not gonna argue with it. So I dialed that in and messed with their levels and EQ'd it, so they're just perfect. And this thing is just bright and gritty, and this is just darker and I don't know if tighter is the right word, but anyways, they work super well together. So like I said, I'm quad tracking and I got all those levels set up. We'll go over that in the next video, how I did that in terms of blending these two microphones, which one is favored, blending these two, and then blending them as a whole. So just a lot goes into this stuff, you know, when you're trying to do things seriously. So there's recordings out there, lots of recordings out there, just with guitar sim or amp sims or people that didn't take the time with this kind of stuff. But this was what the engineers did when I was coming up. Great engineers I worked with. Ben Schigel, Colin Richardson, Andy Sneap, Jason Sukoff, Mark Lewis. You know, they took the time and figured this stuff out and did multiple tests while I was sitting there just hanging out, you know, not even thinking about it. But now I know, well, I mean, I've done this before now, I should say. And so I learned that this is what it takes to get good guitar sounds. Multiple tests, total analyzation, taking the time to figure it out. It's like you hear about these guys that'll spend 4 or 5 days just getting the drum sound. You know, how do the cymbals sound? What's the bleed like between the snare and the hats and the room and all that kind of stuff? That's what it takes to get a good guitar sound, and I'm happy that I spent the time. I'm gonna be honest with you, I spent 4 days figuring this out to get it just the way I wanted. Fortunately, all the phasing was perfect. I didn't have to worry about that. All that worked out well, but I was prepared to have to make adjustments in that area. I didn't have to because of my know-how, I guess, and just getting the mic set up properly at first. But I'll show you some of that stuff in the next video. So yeah, in that next video, I'm gonna show you my workflow in Pro Tools, how I go about organizing and capturing all these microphones, plus those DIs. Let me talk about that just for 1 second, then I'll let you go. So the DI is recorded through the through of that Countryman DI box that I showed you before, and that goes straight into my computer. Then the output of the Countryman goes to my head, which comes to one of these cabs, whichever I want at the time. This signal is picked up through these microphones, sent back to my interface and then into ProTools. So I'm capturing 3 signals for every track. In this case, let's say with the Almighty, it's getting the DI, it's getting the 57, and it's getting the 421. And that's one group. That might be guitar left, that group of 3. And I group them together and make my edits based visually on, well, of course I'm listening, that's most important, but visually, because I have that DI track, which I said shows far more of the articulation in the playing, so it makes editing far more easier. So I'll group those tracks and make my editing decisions based on what I hear and then what I see based on the DI track, but because they're grouped, any edit I make based on the DI also affects the microphones. Then my right side will be another one of these Almighty tracks, exact same thing. So 6 tracks just for the first layer, 2 DIs, 1 left, 1 right, 157 left and right, 1 421 left and right, all of that balance. The DIs aren't heard in the recording, they're there for the editing purposes and if we need to reamp later. And then tracks 3 and 4 for the quad are gonna be this one right here with the Royer 121, another 57 on the Marshall 1960 BV. And that's a whole nother group of 6. So there's 12 tracks going on the whole time for every song. It's a lot to manage, plus all the drum tracks, the bass tracks, the vocals. With those bass tracks I was talking about, I get that good sound through there, but then I'll affect that with some sort of plugin. I really like the Joey Sturgis Hellraiser plugin. That's a great one for bass. I also like just in a little bit I've heard from, I got the Neurals DSP Dark Glass during the last Black Friday sale, so 4 or 5 months ago, but I haven't messed around with it a ton. I haven't had the opportunity, so I'm planning to check that out for this one. But the good thing is that I'm getting good, solid recorded bass tracks through the Sans amp and either that DBX 160 or whatever I decided to compress that with. And we have a good source, and that's what makes great recordings. Great sources make mixing so much easier. So whether I'm gonna mix this or somebody else, we're gonna have great source material because I'm putting this time in right now. And I've taken up too much of your time right now, I would say. So thanks so much if you've made it this far. Thanks for watching. I hope you hit that subscribe button so you can check out episode 3 and all the ones that are gonna follow that if you haven't subscribed already. If you are subscribed, thank you for being a part of the ride. Appreciate y'all. And comment something great if you got something great to say. If you got something negative to say, I don't wanna hear it. I'm Rob Arnold, signing off. Hope to see you on the next one.